Hey folks, this is your friend Doug on Saturday morning and very pleasantly cool out here. I'm out here with the dogs and I'm just doing this little video because frankly, oftentimes it's just easier to do this than to type. I'm dealing with diabetes, type 2 diabetes, uh, not doing a great job of it. And I do have some diabetic neuropathy in my fingers, as Dad had. And sometimes it makes it typing uh, uncomfortable. And this is a more naturally easy way for me to relate anyway. It always has been, because my mind moves kind of rapidly along. And not that I'm all that smart either. Sometimes it's just rapid on really dumb thoughts. you know, but but sometimes it's always been difficult for me to type, uncomfortable with it, and then with the neuropathy, it just makes it that much more so. The reason I chose to do this morning is something uh, that I wrote in response to my friend Gabriel Hirschman, fine fellow, marvelous writer, a fellow appreciator of Richard Burton and Richard Harris and Robert Shaw and so many of the great actors, performers. And he writes about them marvelously. Um, I'd written a little something, and I was going to try to type it up for Dad's page, and I just don't have it in my fingers. But I had mentioned in my post that I did a 15-minute reading for the Cape Fear and Poetry Prose yesterday of Macbeth, and I got to play Macbeth with the wonderful actress Rosemary Harrington, and it went very well. And that, with other things that I've been doing, has really gotten me very much back in the theater mode. And I'm going to pursue it. I have been pursuing it as much as I can, here at home. But once things open up, that needs to become very much a part of my life again. Long intro, and but why on Dad's page? Well, I had written about like 1 in the morning, how I was still up and wired, and all I did was a 15-minute reading online on Zoom, but I was still up. And Gabriel commented about the adrenaline rush and people having been on stage and then calming down with booze and or keeping it up, as so many of those guys, did. Burton and Harris, and O'Toole, and Ollie Reed, and so many of those guys, and gals, and certainly ladies. No differential there. Well, there is, but not in the adrenaline rush and the drinking and all that scene. Um, when I, as a kid, uh, Steve and I, we saw Dad uh, drinking. Steve's 4 years older than me, so he knew what was going on more than I did, earlier in time. Because Dad, in those days, he was playing just about every night on the Cape columns. And people would bring him home. Dad didn't drive. People would bring him home. Charlie Puzo and Don Lawrence, and I mean the old guard, who are dearly missed, dearly missed. And they would stay up with him and do their thing, fine. And Steve and I would wake up in the morning and we'd see him out there, and sometimes they're all still around, and they have all these glasses around, and there oftentimes be like orange juice or something in there, and we'd think like, geez, man, how come they look so bad? They must be incredibly healthy. They're getting all this vitamin C. Little did we know. Well, that's how it seemed to me anyway. Um, but he didn't know anything about the adrenaline rush and coming off of stage. And then once I got to be older and had had a few drinks, was having a few drinks. Once in a while, I'd go up to Boston. And sometimes my friend and I would like use Dad's room when he was on the road. But once in a while I'd stay with Dad. And then I could really get to see his nocturnal habits, because at that time mostly he wasn't drinking. I think occasionally he still did, but for the most part he wasn't. But I'd see him he finish the gig at the Copley. He had a room at the Copley, a wonderful room. And then, you go upstairs. But he'd be up for another 3 hours and drinking coffee, as he did all day and all night and all through the gig, and diving into the crossword puzzles, which was really the main thing. And never saw him do any TV. Once in a blue moon, I think he had the radio on. Not often. Or sometimes, he had a portable CD player and listened to stuff that people had given him. And I know there were big influences like Jobim and, some of that like Brazilian music and some Michael Franks at that time. But he would be up and wired. And, I knew what it was to be drinking and not want to go to bed, but I hadn't really experienced, that high of performance because, at that time I still hadn't, I was still shy except for drinking and, Mother Nature's son, which I recently discovered and hadn't tried it. Then I did the acting, and I stayed acting for a long time, and that's when I encountered that adrenaline rush, and that being so difficult to not only difficult to go to sleep, but wanting to go to sleep, and particularly too when you close a show, all that, man. When I closed a show, I could be sober through the whole run. Well, oftentimes I was, not always, but sometimes I never drunk on stage, but sometimes I get, I come home and get lit, even with friends right after, hanging out with my pal Dave Wallace. And but only then did I discover, what he was going through, and just being so on that it was impossible to turn the switch off. Not difficult, impossible. That had a lot to do with my finally giving up theater. I'm looking to get back into it now. I'm kind of involved, to some extent, with just doing what I'm doing. But I'm a good actor. I might even be. You know what? Screw the might even be. I'm just 56. I'm not trying to be like, oh well, I'm just. Yeah, I'm good. I'm a good actor. The show that's got me in it is going to be a good show because of it. Not just me, but because of the people that I'm in there with, the quality of the show, the quality of the writing, all that good stuff. But a show does not do badly for having me in it. And that's a good feeling. And I know that to be true. So it's time to get out there and be doing it again. But yeah, I did. There were a lot of frustrations with theater, and there was just a lot of my underlying depression and the alcoholism that went with it, and that vicious circle. Which one is, the cause of the other? They're intertwined. But then not really being able to get to sleep and work a job, because most of the people that I know doing this sort of thing aren't professionals. Some are, or partly so, but most of us, working a gig, and then you're drained. Even if you're not drinking, you're drained. If you can't get to sleep, you're off your game, and it's tough. And all of that, that's too much. But I wanted to, I wanted to mention this, and again, put it on Dad's page, because it took me so long to relate to what Dad was going through. And I've never really thought that Dad was an alcoholic. I think he liked to drink as I like to drink. I like to drink. I don't drink anymore. I can't drink anymore, and it's just, it's a closed chapter. But I like to drink, and Dad certainly did. I mean, I'd see him the few times in my adult life that I saw him with a buzz. He was enjoying it, no doubt about it, and he did it pretty good too. As did his sons. Because Steve, I know, enjoys too, and we've had some good times when we were doing that together. So there you go. That's why I'm mentioning it on Dad's page. But yeah, it's just it is a different thing, and there are so many musicians who are on Dad's page. So and performers in various ways. So everybody's going to relate to this. Everybody. It's not just this wonderful insight by Doug. No, anybody who does this thing knows exactly what I'm talking about. I think there's some poems and short stories and stuff like that in there. And then I wish I knew how to play piano, because it'd certainly be a great song in there. which hopefully Dad would have written. Who knows? Maybe he played it. He probably did in his head, and we didn't know it, because it's like, but it's channeling all that. Look it. Thank you for listening. If you have, I hope I didn't bore you. I am going to hit you with these things, a little bit more often because, as I mentioned, the typing is a bitch for me. It's just very uncomfortable. All right, and Jacko lets me know it's time to go in. Thank you.